Back with some more hot Black Dragon action, this time with Rakarth in Domination. Storm Runner is going to be taking the Dark Elves into the Lizardmen today on the Battle of Itza map, so definitely taking the fight to the Lizard's homeland. With the starting army here, we've got Rakarth on the Dragon. We'll check in with him in a minute. A couple of Dread Knights here, cool choice. Crows of Cain, some Dark Riders, and up front Dread Spears, Bleak Swords. More Dark Riders to the side for the Lizardmen's starting army. Rakarth on not Grimlock. Instead, he's on a cold one, I believe. Can he take a horned one? Ah, that is actually a horned one. Yeah, we'll stand corrected. I've got Legion of Chocolates here. Some more Source Warriors with shields. And lots of Chameleons. 3 Chameleons here. 2 Chameleons here. And let's take a look at the reserves real quick. For the Dark Elves reserves, they've got a Sorceress with Lore of Dark Magic, Chill Wind, Blade Wind, and Soul Stealer there. We've got a Blood Rack Medusa, a single Blackguard, 2 Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, 2 Dark Shards with shields, another Harpy, got a couple of Dread Spears, and 3 Bleak Swords for Lizardmen's Cult of Sotek reinforcements. Lord Croak, we've also got a Saurus Scarvet, looks like on some kind of horse-sized lizard mount. Scarvet, Ark of Sotek, Rev Crystal, Cohort of Sotek as well, Razordon Hunting Packs, 2 Clever Girls, and 4 regular Skink Infantry. So let's get back to it. Now we're back. So, Rakarth. The dragons, as I discussed in my video about Malekith recently, are much better. He's got 80 armor, so he didn't go all the way up to the full 90, but still 520 weapon strength, 15 bonus versus large, and I don't remember if Rakarth had murderous prowess on his dragon before, but certainly is unique among dragon lords. None of the other dragon lords have it. Gives him melee attack. It's specifically melee attack, charge bonus, and the vigor are all very applicable, especially for a lord that's going to be doing a lot of cycle charging. Of course, he's got the breath attack as well. His other kind of elite, Beast Lord buffs. Yeah, Whiplash, Beast Slaver, Beast Lord's Gaze. The stopping Rampage is actually mostly useless now, except in very niche specific situations, but still, I guess a single target melee defense debuff is enough to make it worthwhile. Sorry, that's the Whip of Agony. That's the one that actually removes terror. Yes, it gives damage resistance. That's right. It's, yeah, actually probably is worthwhile because of that damage resistance. But anyway, gonna get a nice VTOL breath straight down into Rakarth's head. Doesn't do that much damage, honestly. But the thing is, Rakarth can just straight drop down here. Razordons are getting tied down by the Cannons of Cain. And they should do a decent job. Rakarth instead chooses to just go after the Razordons. A smart choice, as that's definitely the most threatening unit to him. And due to the fact that the Lizardmen spread their forces out all over the battlefield, there's nothing allocated to protect the Chameleons over on this far side, and the armor and the shields of the Dread Knights, their increased HP as well. They got a significant HP buff, up to 120 armor as well. I think they were only like 100 before, I want to say, maybe. So definitely buffed Dread Knights are making the Lizardmen just have a very bad day at this point, running over a lot of these Chameleons and just routing them off very quickly. So that's rough for the Lizardmen, but of course their Saurus are going to be trading very cost effectively. Over on this side, the Dark Riders are doing less of a good job, certainly, with Saurus Spear support. They get cleaved through pretty quickly, dragged into the mud of Lustria. Love this like Dread Column center flank here, somehow getting the Saurus into position to now technically get a side charge into those Dread Bleak Swords, which is just hilarious. That being said, the Dread Knight overrun is very real. These Clever Girls summoned in as kind of a panic force. They're not going to do a lot to actually help. VTOL Breath Attack also probably does more harm than good at the end of the day. Just wrecking through those Spears, but now we get the clash that we've been looking for. Unfortunately, it's not the full clash, as Rakarth's not on Grimlock, so they're not quite at their full power levels, but still, we've got all sorts of stuff here. Sacred Spawning, Rev Crystal, Cold-Blooded, Deadly Onslaught, so physical resistance, extra weapon damage, all that stuff. Of course, Rakarth's also got his extra bonus versus large from Beast Slaver, up to 650 weapon strength with that, and 31 bonus versus large. The bonus versus large isn't that huge for the weapon strength. It definitely makes a difference, but it's more applicable for melee attack or single entity fights. The Rev Crystal is going to come in and try and support, help clear out some of those spears. But Rakarth, without the Grimlock mount, just doesn't have enough HP to stand in this fight. He's doing a decent enough job, all things considered. He actually gets quite a bit of damage on Rakarth here. but just doesn't have the total HP pool to stand up in that fight anymore. So, or I should say, without his without his big mount. That being said, the Dread Knights are also just making all the skinks have a bad day. But all that overextension coming from me, I can tell you, it's a little bit of overextension in terms of the actual objectives. Granted, things are definitely not that far ahead right now in terms of Lizardmen's victory tickets, but they do have a commanding lead here with 2 objectives secured. Saurus helping to secure, but the Karens of Cain come in, get another nice attack here. Furies got a cost increase because they're just straight up better than Harpies. Harpies got a cost decrease from 600 down to 500, makes them a really efficient unit, and they're not as good as Furies, but in Domination especially, they can fill the same role as Furies very well, and the Karens of Cain in particular, the self-healing they get with the 48 melee defense, unless they eat a charge from a unit with high charge bonus, they're going to do a decent job. I mean, I guess if they run into like a, Corn Berserker, then they're definitely going to die, but anyway. Dread Knights continuing to just smash anything that comes off of these far deployment zones. Rakarth also just fully chases Hrothgar off, but now just trying to decide where to deploy. As I've said in previous videos, powerful flying lords can be really tough to use effectively in Domination, but in this build in particular, Rakarth has definitely done enough damage so far to affect the battlefield in a significant way. I mean, we're not that far in, and he's already got 2,300 damage value, which is significant enough that the Dark Elves are going to start to get just an overall value advantage big enough that they can win. One thing I wanted to point out to Stormrunner here, a little bit of a micro mistake. I think you just want to move up this Blood Rack and like stand on the very edge of this objective, and you can keep shooting, doing what you're doing. It had been standing kind of off of the objective for some time. Now he's going to reposition to do something similar over here, but again, I would say, and it does require some micro, you probably want to be prioritizing micro with like Rakarth over on the far side fighting that Rev Crystal, but you can like shoot, advance, pause, shoot again, because I don't think this thing can actually shoot while it's moving. No, it can't, but yeah, firing into the side of these Saurus, definitely going to do quite a bit of damage. The regular Harpies have come out to play as well, chase some routing units, super cost effective, but again, you could even come like fire in advance until you get right onto the edge of this zone, or even come like over on this corner, still fire into the rear there of those infantry while also providing that extra capture weight, because right now, Stormrunner's getting pretty far behind on tickets. He's going to need a 3-cap, which he's definitely within the realm of possibility of doing so, given his value advantage on the field and the fact that the Dread Knights really have no response for the Lizardmen. Even the, Feral Cold Ones and other units coming straight out of the deployment can't do a lot. The Dread Knights are just bottling up all of the Lizardmen in their spawn and just destroying their units outright. So definitely gotten some really good value so far. Dark Riders are also coming into support as a heavy cavalry enjoyer. I definitely like to see Dread Knights in a much better place than in Warhammer 2. And again, Domination is not a build I would typically expect like an elite flying Dragon Lord plus elite cavalry build necessarily succeed, but specifically here, the overinvestment in chameleons and the lack of anti-large AP from the Lizardmen really come back to haunt them, and Stormrunner's now in a commanding position to 3-cap. While the Lizardmen have very little ability to bring their units off of reinforcements. I apologize, guys. A little bit of fall allergies. I guess late summer allergies for me kicking in here. But anyway, more Clever Girls coming through. We've got more Skinks also coming out of deployment. The Harpy should be able to interrupt them, and we'll watch as the Blood Rack kind of defends here. Medusas are cool. I don't know. I mean, they're reasonably low cost, and their tactical flexibility might make them decent in Domination. I haven't really tried, but I don't know. I've really been enjoying other units for the Dark Elves, so it's cool to see someone bring a Dark Elf build of units that I haven't really gotten a chance to play around with too much, in terms of the Blood Rack, the Dread Knights, who are still coming up to just murderize more Skinks. Let's watch something as well. Murderous Prowess is... Okay, so confirm this then. Murderous Prowess is actually active. Once it's activated for the Dark Elves, you get a 90-second buff for any unit that comes off of reinforcements, because it will activate for any unit that comes in when you summon them. So like this Dread Spear, for example, or Bleak Sword rather, you can see Murderous Prowess is ticking down. They're up to 45 attack and 20 charge, which you know, especially for units that come off of Vanguard that have good charge bonus, like Dark Riders are a perfect example. It does mean, like, this Dark Rider, look, they come in and immediately they have Murderous Prowess, so that is a huge advantage for Dark Elves in Domination specifically. The fact that their army ability essentially lasts the entire game for their reinforcements, so you can just continue to, you know, unsummon and resummon units and reapply that buff. But a nice multicolored skinks here, kind of hard to tell apart from the vegetation, honestly, as they hit my frame rates. So Rakarth's going to drop there, and that'll be victory for the Dark Elves. So love the color scheme, love the build. Stormrunner coming in, warming my heart here with this excellent play from Rakarth. Over 3,000 damage value on him, 3,200 rather damage value, and 15,000 total damage dealt. Only 40 kills, so a lot of that is against, like, single entities and stuff. Very important. While then the high kill totals, just clearing out all the skinks, comes from the Dread Knights and the armor there. The 120 armor, the extra, you know, health that they got as well, and the fact that they just deal great damage, have great sustained combat stats, just able to cleave through a lot of stuff here, just grind it down. Cairns of Cain also great value, great tactical flexibility, would pretty much always take them in Domination, might take them in Reserve typically actually, but definitely going to be a nice tool in your toolkit against factions which bring any kind of ranged units. 259 kills, 1,500 damage value on a Dark Rider too, chasing routing units is really good. This is the one that was supporting these two heavy cavalry units, so you can see how some of their value even kind of bled into this light cavalry unit in a way. For the reinforcements, Blood Rat comes in, kind of a luxury pick, does a little bit of work. The Harpies also coming in, paying for themselves quite nicely. Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, quite cost-effective in general. This is a matchup that I need to approach. I need to try it from the Lizardmen side a few times to really see where you would go, but obviously an overinvestment on the Chameleons, and even still, I mean, a lot of them get resummoned multiple times, so their value is kind of false there, but I would probably just go with more Saurus and maybe upgrade. If you're going to bring Kroq-Gar, why not go all in and bring Grimlock? In terms of caster, I don't think the Lizardmen even had the gold ever to bring Kroq out, which is a problem to consider. If you're going to take your caster in reserves, I generally recommend, I mean, Kroq's pretty good in Domination. Other, like, hero-level casters, you could actually take a Heaven's Skink with only, like, 1 or 2 expensive spells. He's going to be extremely cheap to summon, and you can wait until your power reserve builds up significantly to your active pool, so you can drop, like, a couple of Chain Lightnings or Comets just very quickly, maybe both of those spells back-to-back, really nuke an objective. And again, he's so cheap that you are almost always going to have the funds to be able to summon him in. In fact, we can go look at that in just a second here. The rest of the build, again, just a distinct lack of anti-large AP. Dark Elves now, they have some really strong, large armored units, and while broadly they're still, I would say, an unarmored faction, the power of the dragons and the Dread Knights is something to be reckoned with. Chariots are also, I mean, obviously, Scourge Runner chariots are always going to be good. I don't know about in Domination specifically, but just generally you probably will see them sometimes. So let's take a look here and think about hero lore choices for, I know we're not necessarily in a Domination lobby, but just kind of as a thought experiment here with Lizardmen. So just seeing how cheap it is to take a Skink. You could come in with Manticore summons as well. That's another unit, a spell rather, that you can kind of save up. Unfortunately, you don't really have big nuke damage spells from Lore of Beasts, which is really the better way of going about it, but like Heavens, for example, if we come in here and cut everything and just take maybe Comet and Chain Lightning, yeah, 640, I mean, that's pretty easy to get in terms of funds. You don't necessarily have to save all the way for Kroq, who's quite expensive. I find that bringing in expensive units off of reinforcements is often not viable because you just need to keep reinforcing to keep value trading well. Otherwise, you'll start to get pretty far behind if you try and wait and save. But it's an interesting one. If you wait and save at the start and bring him out immediately at the beginning, that's probably the best way if you're going to do an expensive caster in reserves or any kind of expensive unit in reserves. But I don't know. Maybe you guys would disagree. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I would say, again, maybe switch out some funds, maybe cut all the Chameleons, or maybe only bring a couple of Chameleons. And then you take, yeah, Krokgar on Grimlock. Sacred Spawning I would take. A Deadly Onslaught's pretty good. I don't know. If you have the gold for this, I would probably take it. But Sacred Spawning you definitely want. Swiftness of Itzel also. It's not... I mean, again, if you have it, it's good luxury pick. Hand of the Gods can be quite good if you can snipe like a caster or something, but it's not as useful in Domination. That's definitely more useful in land battle, so I'd probably switch the leadership to be something more like this. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.